Hey church family, this coming Sunday for the Christian Church is Palm Sunday, and it marks the beginning of Holy Week, that period of time between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday when we focus our attention on Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. It's also the last week of Lent. Lent is that 40-day period of time between Ash Wednesday and Easter Sunday, and it's often marked by some sort of sacrifice that believers will make to help them to draw nearer to Jesus. Here at ERBC, we encouraged our church family to participate in an Easter fast. We encouraged them to pick one thing that they would give up during this time, and whenever they're tempted to turn toward that thing, to use that temptation as a reminder to simply turn toward Jesus, to spend the time in focused prayer. Something else that's interesting about this time we're in is that with these new safer at home regulations under which all of us are living, regulations like you can't go to movies, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go out for a haircut, your kids can't go to school, they kind of make a mockery of whatever it was that you and I had chosen to give up as our Easter sacrifice. I mean, doing without chocolate or social media, that seems like a really small sacrifice compared to not seeing your friends or your grandkids or being able to go out for a hike or play a game of tennis. I was talking with a friend this week by phone, and we were, you'll be glad to know, more than 6 feet apart. And he asked me what the toughest part of this whole stay-at-home thing was for me. And I told him for me, the toughest part is not being able to go to the gym every day of the week. Now, I was quick to tell him that before the restrictions, I never went to the gym every day of the week, but at least I knew I could. And that's what's been taken away from me, and that's what's so tough. I think that's the way it is for a lot of us. The hardest part isn't the restrictions, the hardest part is that we didn't choose them. They were chosen for us. They were forced upon us. A question that's often asked of Christians during this Lenten season is, what are you giving up for Lent? And that's probably a relatively easy question for you to answer this year. You can either name something that you chose at the beginning of the Easter sacrifice, something like chocolate, or being on Facebook in the morning, or soda, or something else. Or you can name one of the many things that you've given up that you didn't choose to, but were chosen for you. Things like going to the gym, or your favorite restaurant, or opening day at Dodger Stadium. But let me ask you another question. What are you not giving up for Lent? During a time like this, it's easy to focus on what we've lost. But how about instead if we choose to focus on what we have left? None of us chose to be in this situation. But if there's one lesson that I've learned in life, it's that even though we can't choose the circumstances in which we live, we can choose how we respond to them. The Apostle Paul wrote a good portion in the New Testament, and one of the books he wrote is his little book of Philippians. And that letter from Paul to the church at Philippi has been referred to as the Epistle of Joy. 16 times in that letter, Paul uses the word joy or rejoice. What makes that all the more amazing is that he wrote those words while he was confined inside a Roman prison. Paul wrote, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I say rejoice." Paul was able to look at his sufferings and see how God was using them for his glory. He wrote, "Now I want you to know, brothers and sisters, that what has happened to me," and he was talking about his circumstances and his suffering, he said, "I want you to know that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. As a result, it's become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I'm in chains for Christ. And because of my chains, most of the brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and dare all the more to proclaim the gospel without fear." You know, Paul couldn't choose his circumstances, but he could choose his response to them, and he chose joy. And I want to challenge you, with all that may be forced upon you in terms of giving up things this season, don't give up on joy. Make the choice to rejoice. Make the choice to look for ways in which God is using your situation as an opportunity to let His light shine through you. And I promise, it will.